Hello and welcome to the English Builder Skill with me, Bill Haining. In this session we are going to look at the sentence. So what is a sentence? Well, a sentence is a group of words that express a complete thought, question, command or explanation. In other words, it's a group of words put together to mean something. It typically includes a subject, who or what the sentence is about, and a verb, what the subject is doing or what is being said about the subject. Now that's the basic building blocks for any sentence. Now, sentences are fundamental building blocks of written and spoken language, allowing us to communicate ideas and information effectively. Now, here is an example of a simple sentence. There are three types of sentences in the English language. Okay, there's simple, compound, and complex. But what we're going to do with this session is we're going to start at simple and then build up to the more complex types of sentences. But it's all about adding information to your sentence to make them more interesting for your reader. Because remember, you're writing for someone else to read, not for your own self purposes. All right, so here is a very simple sentence. The cat sleeps. And you can see from this here that there's the subject. The cat is a subject. That's who or what the sentence is about. Okay, and there is the verb. The verb is just the subject is doing or what is being said about the subject. Something's happening. It's an action word. Now we can build to our simple sentence. We can add information to our simple sentence to make it a little bit more interesting. All right, so now you can see the lazy cat sleeps soundly. So that's just slightly better than the cat sleeps. All right, and so your reader is starting to understand what the cat's doing, for example. All right, so you can see there, lazy has been added to enhance the subject. And an adjective just adds information to the subject or adds information to a noun. Okay, and the part you can see there adds information to the subject. And the adverb, right? The word added to the verb to make more sense. All right, and you can see there it's telling you that the cat is sleeping soundly. And any information added to the verb is called an adverb. So they both have similar roles. Now we can also make our simple sentences more interesting by adding a phrase. Now this is about writing this section, but you will be asking your reading exam to name phrases within paragraphs. Okay, so what is a phrase? Well, let's have a look. You can see there the lazy cat sleeps soundly, and we're adding that little bit of information to it on the mat. All right, and it's that part on the mat that is the phrase, because a phrase is a group of words that are added to a sentence but does not contain both a subject and a verb. So for example, the tall tree. You can see it has a subject there, but it's not telling you what it's doing. Okay, so it's either got a missing subject or missing a verb. All right, you can see there's some other examples. Is running quickly, very happy with the results, with great enthusiasm, under the table. So you can see some of these examples have a subject but not a verb, or a verb and not a subject. So they don't make sense unless you add them to the main part of your sentence, okay? Which in this case is a lazy cat sleeps soundly. So if you're ever in your reading exam and the question asks you to highlight or recognize phrases, what you do is you just look at the sentence, locate the subject and the verb, all right? And you can see there, if you exclude the adjectives and adverb, what's left must be the phrase. So that's a good way to how to recognize these phrases. Right, but as in real life, we don't speak in simple sentences. We use other types of sentences when writing, okay? Because if we spoke in simple sentences, we would sound like robots. My name is Bill. I like to read. I am a teacher. Well, we don't speak like that in real life, do we? Okay, so we have to have different types of sentences. Okay, so the first one you're going to encounter or you're going to create is something called a compound sentence. Okay, now a compound sentence is a sentence that contains two or more independent clauses, complete thoughts. In other words, two simple sentences joined by a joining word such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. Remember, you can remember these by the acronym Fanboys, or you can use a semicolon or punctuation to join two simple sentences together. Now remember, two simple sentences will have a subject and a verb, okay, but you're going to join them together using either or, a joining word or punctuation. Okay, so let's have a look. Here is an example of a compound sentence. I wanted to go for a walk, but it started to rain. So you can see in both of these here, there's two different topics, all right, or two different full sentences. So there's your subject and there's your verb for the first part. There's your subject, which is the rain, and it started to rain. Okay, so it's two separate simple sentences joined together to make a compound sentence. Or if you want to use punctuation, you can see I wanted to go for a walk. It started to rain. All right. So when you're creating compound sentences or you're looking for compound sentences in your reading exam, all right, then you either use punctuation or a connecting word, but not both. So you can see now we're going from simple sentences and the language or the way you speak is, or even if you write it down like this, it's beginning to mimic real life. So it sounds uh, more plausible and easier for your reader to understand. So I wanted to go for a walk, but it started to rain. And you can see there's a natural flow there. So keep that in mind as you start on your writing journey. All right, just to add to that, here are a few examples of compound sentences to help you get it into your head. Okay, she likes to read books and he enjoys watching movies. Two separate thoughts joined by a connecting word. I wanted to go for a walk, but it started to rain. Again, two thoughts joined by a connecting word. He studied hard for the exam. He passed with flying colours, using punctuation. Okay, we can go to the beach or we can visit the museum. Again, compound sentences make your speech sound more natural, or your written word for your reader more natural. It's got a better flow to it. Now the sun was setting, the air remained warm. All right, so these are good examples of compound sentences, and I'm sure you could probably think of many more. Now you know how they're structured. So have a go, or if you get the chance, look at any written work and see if you can find compound sentences within that written work, and that will help you get it in your head. Because sometimes reading English, once you understand what they're constructed of, it's a quick and easy way to learn how to get it in your head and study it. Because once you read it and understand it, you can move on to the next thing. Now, there is a third type of sentence. This is called a complex sentence. All right. Now you've got your simple sentence, you've got your compound sentence, and this is your complex sentence. Now, when you do your written exam, you will need to show examples of these in your work. Okay. So you need at least one of these in your work. Okay. Or if you're reading in your reading exam, you may have to recognize the different types of sentences. All right. So what is a complex sentence? Well, it's fairly simple. A complex sentence is a sentence that contains one independent clause, one single thought. So that's a complete sentence, so a simple sentence. And at least one dependent clause, a sentence fragment that depends on the independent clause to form a complete thought. Now I'll show you what that means. All right, so here's some examples of a complex sentence. Okay, right. When I went to the store, I forgot to bring my wallet. Now, if you look at that, the first part, the green part there, is the main clause, the independent clause. I forgot to bring my wallet, because without that part of the statement, the first part doesn't make sense. So the dependent clause, when I went to the store, well, what did you do when you went to the store? All right. Well, it depends on the main clause to make sense. When I went to the store, I forgot to bring my wallet. Okay, so again, you can see there in the main clause, all right, in the main clause, subject, right, and the verb, forgot to bring my wallet. So we're starting to build these sentences so that you can make them more complex and more interesting for you. Well, here's another example. Although it was raining, they went for a walk in the park. And just like before, the green part there is the main clause, because without the main clause, the other part doesn't make sense. So they went for a walk in the park, you have your subject and your verb. All right, there's your dependent clause. Although it was raining, doesn't make sense unless you add the main clause. Okay, so it provides additional context or condition to the question. All right, so you know what's happening. Your reader knows what's going on. She studied hard because she wanted to pass the exam. So you can see in this case now, we're using a connecting word to join two different parts of two different sentences. Okay, she studied hard, but you can see there, without the second part, she wanted to pass the exam, and it doesn't make sense. So you can see the independent clause is she studied hard, all right, because the dependent clause doesn't make sense to why she studied hard or why she wanted to pass the exam, okay? And it explains the reason or the motivation behind the main clause, all right, why she studied hard. She wanted to pass the exam, okay? So it's another good example of a complex sentence. Here's another example. After the movie ended, we went out for dinner. In this case, they're using punctuation to join two parts or two sentences together. Okay, the independent clause, we went for our dinner. All right, but again, you're adding more information to your sentence. All right, after the movie ended. And so to make more sense of it, it's using a time sequence. All right, it indicates that after the movie's finished, we went somewhere else. Okay, so you're expressing a movement in time. Okay, let's have a final thought on the three different types of questions. Remember, you may have to recognize these in your reading exam, but you will have to produce examples of them in your written work. Okay, so it's worth investing a little bit of time in this. And not only that, you will be able to improve your skills no end. Right, in each example, the dependent clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence and relies on the independent clause to make a complete thought. All right. This structure allows for more complex and nuanced expressions in writing and speech. Okay, so remember, you have to have at least one example of a complex sentence within your written work. Right, and if you're watching this video on YouTube, if you look in the box below, you will see this link to a quiz for simple, compound and complex sentences. So have a go at that, just a little bit of fun, and good luck. And that was English Builder Skill with me, Bill Haining, all about sentences. Thank you very much.